Greetings guys and gals, it's time to show you a new art piece and all the blood, sweat and tears behind the scenes of the masterpiece of the nation. So I hope you are ready for it. Let's begin. So recently I've been urging to explore punk and alternative subcultures. I collected inspiration to how punk feels today, and I have images of people smoking for facial references as I'm creating my first original character out of the norm of drawing my well-known pop culture figures. I didn't record the initial sketching, so here's an accurate recreation of such actions happening. I freehanded the portrait and guessed the dimensions, which was very tricky and could have been better, but it wasn't horrific. I then taped up everything as it were a crime scene and felt the background would be the best starting point. But here, I spotted a squirrel.
You're so cute. When you want in our bin.
Insert dramatic walk into frame to admire the mummified job, where I happily start the background. This will be an acrylic piece, and the background is based off this cool abstract art I found to create a similar style using sponge, brush and a spatula. I had to remind myself that it's okay to be imperfect with this, as that's kind of the punky point. This was actually so freeing and relaxing, just deliberately making a beautiful, messy background. I get how certain types of abstract artists get a high out of this. There is that patient thrill of seeing a realism piece slowly coming to life, but honestly the background was probably the most fun part. Definitely got to look into trying this in future projects. But I definitely need to learn how to use a spatula because it felt like a much trickier task I would assume it would be. Perhaps why it's used more with oil paintings rather than acrylic. However, you can see I was kind of struggling to get something onto the canvas without slicing it. The sponge truly came through though, it was amazing. I kind of hoped that it would be stripped in one, but hey, it was still pretty satisfying, right? Just had to top up a couple of details where the background peeks through, and had an epiphany about brush spraying the background as it just doesn't fail. It always looks amazing to me. I finished off everything in the background and moved on to the face. Bear in mind, these were filmed over multiple days where unfortunately the natural light wasn't slaying because it's winter time. Hopefully the colour grading does you guys justice. We shall see. I start off with the skin. I'm not sure why, considering I tend to feel satisfied doing eyes first. I probably simply forgot in this case. But I changed my technique to have more lasting paint on the brush to subtly blend in the skin colour changes. I was aiming for Doja Cat's skin tone as I had her hair picture as a reference, and I was like, you know what, let's go for her skin type. But ultimately it was guessing where shadows and lighting would be on this face angle. The skin to begin with seemed to be working in my favour, however I was on the grind so much that I didn't realise how much the yellow lighting in the room was actually impacting my perception of the skin tones I was using, which was my first mistake that I noticed once I had the natural lighting. Second mistake was putting the shadow on the forehead and cheek, opposite sides to each other. Like the two face references I mainly focused on had shadows on the different sides, and I think I mindlessly recreated that until later realising it looked actually quite odd and didn't make much sense either. At least the eyes are okay. Since they have to look down at a cigarette in her mouth, I was slightly worried her cross-eyed would be looking cross-eyed at the wrong thing, but it was fine though. The eyeliner was trickier as I wasn't sure what would be her eye shape and what to do with the makeup accordingly, with the angle and such, essentially affirming to myself, "Careful SpongeBob! SpongeBob, careful! Careful SpongeBob!" as I used the black paint on her eye. Man, I really kept going, didn't I? Looking back at this now, I was really just giving myself much more work to correct than if I waited to do it in better lighting. I even progressed to the hands, and the hands are scarily difficult. No matter what, they were going to get some serious painting surgery to fix them right up. This was definitely going to provoke a procrastination, and it totally did. How are our eyes doing? Do they feel much better now with the lighting change? What a relief, right? That's not how I felt when I saw her skin. Oof, very much patchy, discoloured and muddy looking. She needed a fresh new skin, no questions asked. Automatically noticed improvements because for once, she was no longer looking like a decomposing corpse, but skin tone transitions were a lot smoother and actually matched. It was hard to notice in the previous day, but she had received eyebrow wrinkles done without much effort to it, so I had to do it justice and with more care put into detail to show she is tensing her eyebrows, concentrating on getting that sweet nicotine. Once I was much more satisfied with how the skin looked now, it felt right to continue onwards and finishing the face with lips, blood and cigarette. Quite exciting as that's where the action is in the picture. I really like the makeup style of dark outer liner with a natural gradient on the actual lip. It's something Doja Cat does a lot in her recent Y2K makeup looks. It contrasted well with the pop of red of blood. I didn't want to give it a cartoony impression of the blood, so I had it in multiple shades of red, leaking under the cigarette from between her lips, and even a droplet sliding on her chin. Very extra, very gory. I wonder how full her mouth actually must be if this much is coming out. Ugh, can't be good. Now we gotta fix this hand, save it from its corpse-like appearance and, in general, deformities. Colour matching was a lot better this time round, but it was still super tricky. So much to the point I think I burnt out, so I moved on to something new, which was hair. And we are going for some bubblegum pink up in here, because why not? So punk and so cutesy. The inspo being the pink hair dye in my cupboard that I have yet to try out, but also Doja Cat's Dazed shoot. It's not my first time creating buzz cut hair, but it is the first time painting it, and I have a history of struggling to paint hair, so perhaps it's somewhat easier to get away with it if it's short. That's a theory I've held on to this whole time, but really, the time-lapse footage on here will tell us if that's actually the case. I didn't plan anything for the outfit, lacking much thought about it until the time came where I was absolutely clueless. I think initially I thought some kind of dark jumper, but it would blend into the background too much, so I got inspired by distressed clothing style worn a lot, and I decided on purple because that was the colour of a designer's outfit I wore the previous day. That was really cool. My technique was quite poor, thinking I'll fill in the gaps of the squares with skin tone, and it looked too blocky with too much white showing. Like the face, I restarted with the skin tones on top, then added the clothing, and it came out so much smoother in my eyes, like the clothes were on top of the skin rather than mixed with it. There may be questions circling about as to why this was done in the Union Jack, although punk originated in New York. My answer is, I had no clue. My bad. So really I'll say this was focused on punk back in London in the 70s, because I have to represent my people, you know. Additionally, making the lighter have a used and dirty appearance using dry brushing just matched punk appearances of rags and drabs, imperfections to show punk really don't give an F. Although the irony being they give all the Fs about different equalities in society through anarchy, which is pretty darn sweet. I didn't forget about the lashes, don't worry. They are the ultimate completion to the eyes and super underrated for their effectiveness. Absolutely girl bossing it. I debated creating catch lights as none of my references had them, but I couldn't resist. I mean, it brings her to life and cures my depression. Now all the big papa jobs have been done, it was time to focus on the little guys, and the cigarette was actually pretty fun and simple to do. I scrapped the idea of fitting a small smiley face on it, to save myself the pain. However, never really having painted flames before didn't really look very realistic, but I'm still pretty satisfied with the outcome for the most part. I almost called this piece finished, but the hand felt too bare. So they needed something special, so last minute I researched ring types and attempted these 2 rings, and automatically I had no regrets. It really spiced up the hands with some character. Considering these hands are front and centre with the perspective showing them as a lot bigger, they need some bling and personality. And with that, I could finally call this piece finished, and it was now time for montage! Cue the close-ups.
Laddies and lassies, it's the end of the video. How are we feeling? If you've made it this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate every viewer. Thank you so much. I hope you've liked what I made. I think the biggest critique of this, it could have more details to be realistic. It's obviously lacking some details like some skin textures and stuff like that to make it pop more. The hand feels more real than the face. The hair, I've never really been good at painting hair, so I'm not surprised by that. I've had people critique that it is a little too low, like there's not much volume, but considering the position of the face where it's kind of lifted up looking down, you're not going to see as much hair on the top. Anyways, I'm glad I made this. Again, like trying something new every time keeps me hyped up with art. Don't know if people will like it. I quite like it, but it doesn't matter what other people think, because sometimes your best work comes out when you're not trying to impress others. I hope this vlog was somewhat informational to you. If you're interested in other art vlogs like these, I've got other videos on my channel and I can link some in the description. Until the next video, I guess. Bye.
Oh, look at me.
Is someone in the comments able to tell me how you actually add this to a canvas? Because they're meant to make the canvas a lot more tighter and less bouncy when you paint on them. And I don't know if that's actually how you're meant to do it, because this one keeps falling out. So it would be a big help if someone knows what to do with these. Please, thank you.